So long, Annapolis. It's been real. And just like that, the Annapolis Sailboat Show came and went. You can probably look at anyone else's footage and see all the pretty sailboats that were showcased this year. I'm sure you can even find lots of footage of viewers taking a moment with their favorite YouTubers at the YouTube booth. But this year's Sailboat Show wasn't about that for me. It wasn't about the boats or the YouTubers. It was about me meeting supporters who've been encouraging me all along. And each one of those encounters was so intimate that pulling out a camera could have been pretty tasteless. It was about doing all the things to build the confidence to operate this boat solo, like dropping and raising the anchor, like traveling in the dinghy. It's not intuitive to just jump in that dinghy in choppy water. You have to develop a comfort with it. This year's Sailboat Show was about me solidifying my commitment to untie the lines and get my ass on that boat and go. And now I'll share my reflections on how this trip to the boat show prepared me to do just that. So I got the winds I'm looking for. Right now, between 14 and 16, I'll deal with that. And I think that'll give us a good run. Just have to turn into the wind to get the sail up. I hate going backwards, but I do have to turn around and get into the wind, so. All right, see y'all with the sails up. Now that the sails were set and I was on my way south, I had nothing but time to reflect on all the good things that had just happened. I knew that the forecast would call for strong winds over the weekend of the boat show, and I was really concerned about dragging into somebody else's property. So I had to prepare my anchor chain to know exactly how much I was putting out so that I could get the scope right and ensure that I wouldn't drag. Okay, just in time for sunset. It's all done. I'm gonna let it dry tonight, and then in the morning, I'm gonna get up and put it back in the anchor locker. This makes sense to me. I'm gonna make it better, but this is just my quick cheat sheet, so yeah. When I publish it, it'll make a lot more sense. 260 feet, you got 5 feet left. Marking the chain while I was back at the house increased my situational awareness while I was anchored in Annapolis. Now let's talk about the D. Not to be too hard on my dinghy, but for the longest time, my dinghy was a nameless piece of shit and I was not comfortable in choppy water. I knew that I needed to get comfortable zipping around in choppy water before heading to the Chesapeake Bay. I also knew that I didn't want the worst looking dinghy at the boat show. So I called my man E to zip around the Potomac with me until I was totally comfortable. After that, I put a badass facelift on that beast and asked my viewers to name it. As you may already know, the winning name was the D, compliments of Cache and Sam of SV2F by C. I'll tell you right now, they were without a doubt the most inspirational couple I met at the boat show this year. So after practicing using the D and cleaning it up, I was ready for Annapolis. Just doing a little dinghy tour of all the nice boats that's out here. And these aren't the boats that are in the show. These are people who travel here to attend the show. That is a nice boat. glad I moved in closer. Cruising, just touring, just checking out the other sailors. In this lifestyle, if your boat is your home, then the dinghy is your car. And I'm happy that this trip to the boat show allowed me to prove that I could use the D like a pro. I was quickly running out of daylight since I left Annapolis 2 hours before sunset, so I decided to make some coffee and prepare to sail into the night. The winds were steady at 15 knots on the starboard stern, making for a great broad reach. And for my peeps who don't have a clue about what the hell I just said, let's just say that a 15-knot wind was behind me, pushing me down the bay. I was rolling, and everything about this trip just seemed perfect. At this point, there was not much left to do except sit back and relax and continue to reflect on the wonderful weekend that I just had. So, Sophie's Crepes.
That's good, yeah. This is the Nutella crepe. Yeah. I want to go.
Oh, sorry.
So they just got in from Spain last night.
That's right.
Hopped on the train this morning.
At 4 in the morning, we got up to get on a 5 o'clock train to get here.
Right. So they're jet lagging, and they're still such great troopers, and they had a wonderful day here, I hope.
It was the best day ever.
All right. All right.
And we found all these people that knew Sput from Damage Control Sailing.
Tim is a celebrity. I found that out. I was calling him a celebrity. He said, no, I'm a celebrity. It was a pleasure to have Tim and Chrysalida aboard for the weekend. They actually have an island packet too. In fact, we're planning to buddy boat around the world. Right about 7 hours after leaving Annapolis, I started getting a little tired. So I decided to drop anchor for the night and get some rest right outside of Solomon's Island. Just got my anchor dropped and it's not moving. I'm at 0 ground speed, speed over ground. So I'm dug in, back down on it at 2,000 RPM for 10 seconds. And it held. So I'm gonna sleep soundly. Next morning was beautiful. The winds were 17 to 22 out of the northwest, which was great for this last little stretch of the Chesapeake Bay, but would soon be right on my nose when I turned up into the Potomac River. So right now I'm on a broad reach with 14 knots of wind, well, 8 apparent, and I'm making 6 to 7 knots on average. The problem is when I come down to Point Lookout, I have to make a drastic turn up the Potomac River with the winds probably right on my nose, so I'm gonna have to take the sails in or down and in and start motoring. But that's okay, because this entire return trip has been free so far. I sailed the entire time. But this is my setup. It's just me, and when it's just me, if I'm just sitting here doing nothing, I just clip in. If I have to go forward and do a lot of work, I clip in. At night, I clip in. There's no reason not to. Try to keep things ship-shape. That way, if anything starts going wrong, I'm not tripping over lines or confusing lines and grabbing the wrong thing or anything like that. You know, I usually keep everything pretty easy to access because it's just me. As I was about to turn up into the Potomac River, the winds and waves increased as I expected, but I was having such a great time under sail that I was hell-bent on continuing without the motor, and this shit got real. They say things can happen really quickly. They really can. Winds are the same, but I changed my point of sail. And beating into this is rough. So the situation is, I made a decision to try to turn that corner up into the Potomac off of the Chesapeake, knowing that the winds were going to be on the nose. I thought that I might be able to pinch and continue to sail because I was having such a lovely time sailing. As decisions go, that was a learning experience because things got busy quickly and I could not get the sail in single-handed because I had to work the jib sheets and the furling line. And doing both with one person, it furls too tight, and I ran out of furling line and did not get the entire sail in. I didn't get the entire sail in, and now I'm just hoping I don't blow out the edges or rip the clew. So I'm gonna start looking for somewhere to just duck into and anchor and maybe just chill out now. So if things change, I'll continue. If not, then I may just duck in somewhere because I don't want to just burn diesel for nothing, or so, and you know, not make real progress. I wish the winds would clock or back to my beam, and you know, then I'll just sail again. Since I was not in a rush to be anywhere, there was no need for me to keep beating into this crap. So I decided to head for an Anchorage, cook some dinner, and watch Monday Night Football. Good morning. Got out nice and early. Pretty chilly. Passing back under the 301 bridge made me so happy because I was almost home. My ability to take this boat wherever I want to by myself would soon be validated. As I continued to reflect on this trip, I thought about all the people who impacted it in some way. Like my son Gavin and his lady Elizabeth, who helped me get to Annapolis. And Nikki, who drove to Annapolis to pick them up. Tim and Chrysalida, who joined me aboard for the weekend. Tim is the guy who shared my channel with his 50,000 subscribers to give my channel a bump. Mark and Crystal, Bill and Belle, Darren and Melissa, Frank from Vane Brothers, Lester, AJ and Renee. Renee was a gem. The Max of Mac Yacht Services, Hayden and the entire Island Packet Yacht Owners Association, the Donahue crew of Eastport, beyond helpful, a beautiful little family. Then there was Cachet and Sam, the most humble people I've met in a long time. I had to meet them to present their prizes for winning my dinghy naming contest. And oh, that brand new Leopard 45 catamaran that was featured at the show, it was theirs, and nobody knew because they are so down to earth. I was so honored to sit and chop it up with them for a few hours. Thanks, guys. When I first got the boat, I wondered why this guy had so much junk around. I didn't know the value of certain things. But I thought about it and I said, well, don't throw anything away because it must have a purpose, because the guy was really smart and a really good sailor. Those up there are fender boards. With a mile to go until the marina, it was time to get the boat rigged up for a solo docking. The winds were still blowing 10 to 12 knots, and that made me a little nervous. At this point, I had no choice. I had to get things ready to do it all by myself. This is my game face. This is it. Admit it. I'm going in. Game face on. Thank God, wind's dying down a little bit. 8 knots, I can do this. If I can't dock with 8 knots, sell the boat. Yeah, it's gone. Who wants to buy it? If I can't dock with 8 knots of wind, I don't need this boat. I'm just playing. I'm keeping my boat. Of course, as soon as I entered the marina, the winds did pick back up to over 10 knots. But I was able to get the boat right where I needed it to be, which was up against my piling, resting on the fender board. And with the spring line attached, I was able to just sit there and chill and figure out my next move. First, you can see I put it in reverse, and you can see that as long as I hold this tight, I'm pivoting slowly, very slowly. It's in reverse idle, so no throttle, but I am moving, and I'm slowly pivoting around into the slip. And I got all night to do this. There's no rush. That springboard is keeping my boat off of the piling. And as you can see, the bow is still moving. Now, I do have to watch my dinghy on that other piling. But all I have to do is pull harder here if I start getting too close to that other piling. Still swinging, still swinging. Now the challenge is going to be to get that stern bow line once I'm straight. Looks like I'm going to miss. I'm just hitting that piling with my solar panels. Yep. All right. And I'm still on my springboard. I pivoted all the way around on my springboard. This is great. Okay, I gotta put this down and finish this out. I'll try to pick it back up if I can, but I gotta do something about that bow swinging. All right, bye. So the wind is coming from astern right now. So every time I would take it out of reverse, it would push me back out the slip and sideways because it's actually coming from my starboard quarter on the stern. So it's pushing me out that way, and it had me turned sideways, and I wasn't able to get straight. So what I did was I reached with the boat pole, I reached that starboard bow line, and I just tied it off. That kept the bow from blowing out of the slip into port. Once I got that tied off, I reversed, and I tied it off tight enough that when I reversed, because my stern was going towards my neighbor's boat, but when I reversed and this line tightened up, it swung the stern, it corrected it for me, and it swung it to starboard away from my neighbor's boat. So then I got that starboard bow or stern line and tied that off. So now I'm just sitting here resting on 2 lines, but they're the only lines that would be working anyway because of the winds. So I got my 2 working lines tied off. Now I'm not going anywhere, and I can just take my time and dress everything up. As I stated before, this year's boat show was not so much about boats or YouTubers. It was about so much more. And ultimately, it was a huge success because so much was validated. I'd really appreciate it if you go ahead and hit that like button. Also, go ahead and subscribe, and please share it with your family and friends.